Have you ever wondered how a tiny pill that weighs less than a paperclip can sometimes cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars? Imagine this. You leave your doctor's office after receiving devastating news. The diagnosis is serious, but there is hope. Your doctor tells you that a medicine exists. It can slow the disease. It can save your life. It can give you more years with your family. For the first time all day, you breathe a little easier. Then you walk into the pharmacy. The pharmacist scans your prescription. A few seconds later, a number appears on the screen. $800, $1,200, maybe even more. Your heart sinks. The medicine exists. The science exists. The treatment exists. But now you face a different question entirely. Can you actually afford to stay alive? How does a drug that may cost only a fraction of its retail price to manufacture end up carrying such an enormous price tag? Is it simply corporate greed? Is it the cost of scientific research? Is it government regulation? Or is there an invisible financial machine operating behind the scenes that almost nobody understands? Welcome to the hidden money machine of the pharmaceutical industry, a world where scientific breakthroughs, billion-dollar investments, patent laws, insurance systems, and pricing negotiations collide to create one of the most complicated businesses on Earth. To understand why medicines can become so expensive, we first need to understand something many people never see. Creating a new medicine is incredibly difficult. Scientists may spend years studying a single disease before they even identify a promising compound. Thousands of potential drug candidates are tested in laboratories. Most never make it past the earliest stages. Others fail during animal testing. Many more fail during human clinical trials because they either don't work well enough or produce unacceptable side effects. Only a small percentage of experimental drugs ever become approved medicines. According to industry estimates, bringing a successful medicine to market can take more than 10 years of research and development. And when failed projects are included, companies often spend hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars before earning a single dollar in revenue. This is why pharmaceutical companies argue that patents are essential. A patent gives the developer exclusive rights to sell a new medicine for a limited period of time. During that window, competitors generally cannot produce identical generic versions. The logic is straightforward. If companies know they have a temporary opportunity to recover the enormous costs of research and development, they are more likely to invest in discovering treatments for diseases that currently have no cure. Without that incentive, many experts believe far fewer companies would take the financial risk of developing new medicines. But patents also create something else. They create temporary monopolies. And whenever competition is limited, prices often rise. Unlike products sold in highly competitive markets, a patented medicine may have few, or sometimes no, direct alternatives for years. That gives manufacturers much greater flexibility in setting prices. For patients, that reality can be devastating. Perhaps no medicine illustrates this debate better than insulin. Insulin has been helping people with diabetes survive for more than a century. Yet in the United States, insulin pricing became one of the most controversial healthcare issues in recent decades. Many patients reported paying hundreds of dollars every month for medication they depended on to stay alive. Some struggled to afford their prescriptions. Others delayed refills or rationed doses, a dangerous practice that can lead to severe complications. The reasons behind insulin pricing are complex. They involve manufacturers, insurance companies, pharmacy benefit managers, rebate systems, newer insulin formulations, and the broader healthcare market. But to millions of patients, the experience felt painfully simple. The medicine they needed became increasingly difficult to afford. Insulin is not the only example. Several breakthrough medicines for rare diseases, cancer treatments, and advanced biologic therapies can cost tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of dollars per year. Companies argue that these medicines often treat relatively small patient populations and require years of expensive research. Critics argue that prices can sometimes go far beyond what patients and healthcare systems can reasonably afford. This tension sits at the heart of the pharmaceutical industry. Innovation versus affordability. profit versus accessibility, investment versus public health. And there are no easy answers. Another major reason medicine prices vary so dramatically is something called generic competition. When a patent expires, other manufacturers are generally allowed to produce generic versions containing the same active ingredient. Suddenly, multiple companies begin competing for customers. Competition usually drives prices downward. In many cases, generic medicines cost a fraction of the original brand name version while meeting the same regulatory standards for safety, quality, and effectiveness. This is one reason doctors often prescribe generic medicines whenever appropriate. Competition works, but until that competition arrives, patients may spend years paying much higher prices. Yet the pharmaceutical company isn't always the only business influencing what you ultimately pay. Hidden between drug manufacturers and your local pharmacy is another powerful player. Pharmacy benefit managers, often called PBMs. Most people have never heard of them, yet they influence the price of millions of prescriptions every single day. PBMs negotiate with pharmaceutical companies on behalf of health insurers and employers. They help decide which medicines are covered by insurance plans and negotiate discounts and rebates for manufacturers. Supporters argue that PBMs help reduce costs by negotiating lower prices. Critics argue that the rebate system lacks transparency and can sometimes create incentives that don't always align with patients' interests. The result is a pricing system so complicated that even many healthcare professionals struggle to explain why two patients standing next to each other at the same pharmacy can pay completely different prices for the exact same medicine. One patient may pay $20. Another may pay $200. The medicine is identical. The bill is not. The complexity doesn't end there. Medicine prices also vary dramatically from country to country. In many nations, governments negotiate directly with pharmaceutical companies or regulate medicine prices. As a result, patients often pay far less for the same treatment than patients in countries where pricing is determined more heavily through market negotiations. Supporters of the U.S. model argue that higher revenues help finance much of the world's pharmaceutical innovation. Critics argue that American patients shoulder a disproportionate share of those costs. Both perspectives continue to fuel intense political and economic debate. Then there is marketing. Every year, pharmaceutical companies spend billions of dollars educating healthcare professionals, supporting medical conferences, and, in some countries, including the United States, advertising directly to consumers. Supporters say this helps patients become aware of available treatments. Critics argue that aggressive marketing can encourage demand for expensive brand-name medicines even when lower-cost alternatives may exist. The reality is that pricing decisions rarely depend on a single factor. Research costs matter. Clinical trials matter. Manufacturing matters. Regulatory approval matters. Patent protection matters. Insurance systems matter. Competition matters. Government policy matters. Every layer adds complexity. Every layer adds cost. And every layer affects what patients ultimately pay. Despite the criticism the industry receives, it's also important to remember another reality. Modern medicine has transformed human life. Vaccines have prevented millions of deaths. Antibiotics have turned once fatal infections into treatable illnesses. Cancer therapies continue improving. Gene therapies are beginning to treat diseases once considered impossible to cure. Countless researchers, scientists, physicians, and healthcare workers dedicate their lives to improving human health. The challenge facing society is not whether medical innovation should continue. Almost everyone agrees it should. The challenge is finding a system that rewards innovation while ensuring life-saving medicines remain accessible to the people who need them most. That debate is far from over. Because for millions of families around the world, the biggest question isn't whether the medicine exists. It's whether they can afford it. And until that question has a better answer, pharmaceutical pricing will remain one of the most controversial business models in modern healthcare. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden business systems that shape our everyday lives, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our community. Every week, we expose the industries, strategies, and economic machines operating behind the scenes, using facts, history, and real-world examples to separate myth from reality. And speaking of industries that profit long before you ever step inside a hospital, in the next video, we're exposing the health insurance industry, a system built on premiums, deductibles, provider networks, claim approvals, and billions of dollars in financial risk management. Why do people faithfully pay insurance for years, only to sometimes face denied claims or unexpected medical bills when they need coverage the most? The hidden economics behind health insurance may be even more surprising than the price of medicine itself. Until then, stay curious. Because once you understand how these money machines really work, you'll never look at them the same way again.